Why? Why Keisik Shkwai Kapiniskis, Tanse, Tanshi, Bonjour, Oki, uh, hello, welcome, bonjour, hola. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. If I didn't say hello in a way that speaks to your heart, please feel free to say hi in the chat. That's there for you to communicate and build community while we're in this space. And please know that I utilize all of those small greetings in the Indigenous languages of this place as a sign of my honor and respect for the languages that I believe should be spoken first and foremost in this place. And so my heart is in every single breath with those. Thank you so much for being here with us. A few of you have found the buttons at the bottom of your screen, and I'll just talk to them quickly to help you get situated. So someone's found the react button, yes. So that's the heart at the bottom. You can send us some emojis because when thousands of you sign up, we can't fit you all in a meeting. And so that lets us know you're here with us. We appreciate you. Someone found closed captions as well, or show captions. Depending on your screen, it might be under the More button with 3 dots, and you can use that to have closed captions go across the screen. If that makes it easier for you to engage with us, please do. This is recorded and it will be live tomorrow by 12 p.m. Pacific. You'll get a follow-up email with a link to this recording, to a link to resources, and to your certificate of attendance. And it will be on our recordings page for you indefinitely to interact with. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and let us dive into this beautiful workshop. It is the last installment of our spring virtual workshop series. We are in the 3rd of June. It's that crow, so powerful. And we're looking at new Indigenous learning resources for the elementary years. And if you are an elementary teacher, all 140 of you live plus, we recognise this is an incredibly busy time for you, and we're so grateful that you're joining us. It is National Indigenous History Month, and I am so grateful. I spent yesterday learning Mishif with my language teachers in Cookhams, Cookham Chantel and Cookham Harriet Oak St. Pierre, and our cultural Métis facilitator, Amy Cross, and got to share in circle with just these incredible Indigenous matriarchs talking about what it meant to them to be able to speak their language freely. And so that's something that's really resonating. I'm in Sinai's territory and I'm away from home right now. I'm deep into Sinai's territory. And it's a place of great importance also for the Shukrat, the Silch and the Snaha First Nations. But the thing that's jumping out for me in this moment is some of the teachings that I get around medicines and around plants. So this is my garden that I planted up at the weekend. And it looks messy because we're doing no mow May, although it's June now, so I probably should mow. But we have so many pollinators. There's always bees and butterflies now. And I'm growing sage and I'm growing medicines with instruction about how they can be gifted. And the more I learn, the more I realize how sacred a lot of this knowledge is, and what a massive responsibility is to hold it and to share it and to care for it. So those are the reflections of my appreciation for the land and all of her gifts that are coming to me at the beginning of this really special month. If you, like us, believe that Indigenous learning is at the heart and centre of outdoor learning, then we have a number of Indigenous learning opportunities, like our Indigenous language courses, which are open to everybody. But we've just launched our next season. So there's 4 seasons now, moving through a progression of learning around truth and reconciliation. And Super Early Bird is only open until just now, so you can dive in. So whichever season you're doing, whether it's an introduction to truth and reconciliation or joining in for, say, season 3 with an incredible Lorna, who's going to speak later, which is a shared workshop space online where we can connect more. Then each of us come together once a month, whatever season you're in, to listen to one of these incredible Indigenous voices speak to and share their personal perspective. And so we hope that you will join us on this lifelong learning and seasonal learning in 4 seasons. Very grateful that co-host this evening from our wonderful partners Take Me Outside is here, Michaela.
Thank you, Jade. Hello, everyone. My name is Michaela. I'm the Administration and Communications Coordinator with Take Me Outside. I am grateful to be based on what is known as the Land of Plenty, the traditional unceded territory of the Comox First Nation, and very excited to be here with you all tonight for this incredible workshop. Before we get started, I did just want to highlight a couple of Take Me Outside initiatives. The first of which is our outdoor learning certification course. So this course has recently been updated. We've had over 1,500 educators from across the world take the course, and we've incorporated a bunch of feedback to make this an even better and stronger piece of professional development for educators looking to build their confidence and their skill set and taking their learners outside. We're also excited to now be offering this in French. So if you're interested in learning more about the course, we'll pop a link into the chat so you can learn more about that. And we are also coming up on our 14th year of our annual event, Take Me Outside Day. This year it's October 22nd, Wednesday, and we'll have week-long virtual events, speakers, activities, all sorts of fun things. So we hope you'll join us for that as well. And we'll put a link as well for that.
Thanks so much, Michaela. Okay, we're going to just take a quick minute to see who's joined us today. And there's a couple of questions on there. It asks us who you are in a kind of educational framing. And if you don't see yourself represented in the limited opportunities that we're allowed to do in the poll, please feel free to type it in the chat. And then also we have kind of North America, or what some will call Turtle Island, split into the areas and rest of the world. So if you're not joining us from this continent, perhaps you're joining us from somewhere further afield. Again, we'd love to see you share in the chat, because it's pretty amazing the reach that we're getting here. I think we've had, tens of countries represented over this series, and people from every walk of life. So I'm going to just leave it open just for a few minutes, because we've got such great content today, and as we always do, but we want to make sure we get to it. So I'm going to leave it open for just 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to end that poll and share the results. So lots of younger grades, but some older as well, which is so lovely, because a lot of these resources have the ability to be scaled or adapted. Also, every kind of educator we can see represented, and folks from across our continent. Nobody joining from the rest of the world here, but maybe in the recording they'll show up at a time that feels good to them. So thank you so much for being here. This is truly heart and soul work, and if you're turning up after a long day of work or whatever's going on in your life, we appreciate you being here in this community and doing this fantastic work with us. Talking of which, we have over 100 outdoor learning partners, both near and far. Some specialised to place, some specialised to a particular topic, that do incredible work. So we hope you'll check out our partners page, because all of these people do this work with us and are making a massive impact. And we hope you've, through the store and the school and all of our partners, that we really become your one-stop shop for all things outdoor learning. So we're so grateful to be here with you today. And thus, we get to the good stuff. We have the most incredible panel today, and it's going to be like a sort of wham, bam, thank you, here we go, because we've got 4 incredible speakers, 10 minutes of pop, and we're going to kick it off. But this is new Indigenous learning resources for the elementary years, and the wonderful Lorna Purcell is going to kick us off. Before I read your formal bio, I've gotten to know you over the last few years in a variety of capacities. You are the most beautiful human. You are so giving and generous with your time and your knowledge and your energy, and it has been the greatest honour to see how you and Sherelle rise up and all of the amazing work you do. And the recent outdoor learning conference, the impact that you were having with your table and the way you connected with all people from all walks of life was so inspirational. But Lorna Purcell is a member of the Hackshaw First Nation. She's an Indigenous educator with a focus on outdoor education. She teaches yoga and mindfulness in addition to Indigenous outdoor camps. And I got to participate and see her work with youth, and just has such a capacity for adults and kids alike. Lorna's the proud mother of 2 adult children. And you've published 2 books on Indigenous learning and connection to the land, including Heartbeat of the Earth and Whispers of the Earth, which is your new book with the incredible Carl Sam, who again I got to meet, who is doing just the most incredible cultural work on all levels. And so it is the greatest honour to have you here, Lorna.
Ah, Kutsham Jade for that beautiful introduction, and Kutsham Michaela as well. I'm calling in from Secwepemcúlecw, the unceded territory of the Secwepemc people. And I'm so proud to have this little bit of time to share about Whispers of the Earth. So this book came together from when I was young, like when I was a kid, I always remember our elders and family members having all these little things that they'd say, like, oh, the buttercups are blooming. When the buttercups bloom, the spring salmon zoom. And like little phrases that I came to realize later in life were nature indicators. But they were things that as Indigenous people, we'd always been taught to look for and to recognize as our way to navigate the world and our way to understand what's going on in nature. And as I got older, I realized like some of these nature indicators have shifted because of changes in the environment and things that we as humans have done to damage some of the environment. So I wanted to bring some of that knowledge together and share it in a book that would work for younger kids and also be able something that could be worked with and adapted to activities. And my passion has always been for teaching on the land and being on the land and incorporating Indigenous teachings within that and bringing it to that. So yeah, so along with input from various elders and the language, some of the words were translated through my elder Carl Sam into Uklamus, and so there's some language and glossary throughout it, and then the beautiful artwork through Carla Joseph. So yeah, I'm grateful for my work with them, and just wanted to share a few of the pages with you. So just sort of jumping into page 4, there's some of Carla's artwork, and this says, a bear having less cubs might tell us that their diet has been affected by environmental stressors like pollution. And you can see in the artwork there's trash in the creek and the bear and cub looking into it. So it's kind of like heart-wrenching, I think, for kids to see that. And it's an opportunity to talk about our waters. And so this one simple activity that I think is really effective for thinking about the water is gathering 2 jars of clean water. And that is a chance to talk about, oh, this water looks nice and clear. Would you be comfortable having a drink of this water? Do we see anything in the water? So just like really basically looking at, oh, it's nice, clean water. And then moving on to gather up. No matter where we go, there is bits of trash around. So we always have in my outdoor pack, I always have a backpack and with some gloves or something to pick up trash with. So this was just gathered just around the door of our center here. There's some cigarette butts and bits of metal and tinfoil. And so with just sort of enhancing this activity, we take a salmon and just a little carved wood one, or it could be a plastic one, and put one in the clean jar. And so one goes in the clear jar, one goes in the other jar, and the other jar we add the trash to. And usually that's impactful enough, like seeing like the salmon all of a sudden surrounded by trash in their jar, but then shaking it up a little bit, and we know like it ends up sort of getting like very debris filled and very noticeable. So it's an opportunity to talk about which water would you drink. How does the trash that we let go of make its way to the water? Like how does that affect the other animals? So that's just sort of a little simple peek into that activity, and we'll flick on to the next slide. So this one is with a birch tree, and I always remember lots of teachings about birch trees. They're in my territory. They're used for lots of different things, baskets particularly, and also in Secwepemc territory where I've been for many years. birch tree gives that gift of its bark for canoes, lightweight canoes, for baskets, for lots of different things. So one of the things that's really interesting is that idea that in the spring, when things are first thawing, that the sap is running through the birch tree. And when that sap is running, the tree is ready to share its bark. So one kind of fun activity, if you can catch it at the right time, and any like other thin skinned trees also have the ability to hear the sap. We just did a shout out for a donation of a bunch of stethoscopes. So just on Facebook. So we got stethoscopes, and then with the little ones, we go out and in the early spring when things are just thawing and try to hear the sap running. So it's fun to have that chance to try to listen and go to different trees and listen carefully and see if we can hear the sap running through the bark. And yeah, so it's just a way to sort of incorporate some of those teachings in the book to your walk through nature. And if you don't have birch trees, like some of the other thin ones as well, thin barked as well. So the next slide just talks a little bit about the birch bark. So so I just use that as an opportunity to share about all those many gifts from the birch tree. So we don't just have the birch bark run up to a birch tree and grab its bark. We need to know how to gather it in a good way. So it's a chance to talk about leaving an offering, whether it's a song or a prayer or giving thanks, the whatever the traditional way in your territory is. And so I have a little pinch of tobacco here. So leaving that offering, and a chance to talk about, oh, when we gather bark, there's a certain way to do it. We need to know the proper way to gather bark. So looking at what time of year? Well, we know that we've said that when the sap is running, the tree is ready to give its bark. We don't want the tree to die by taking it at the wrong time or gathering too much. We look for little eyelets or eyes in it because that'll crack. So we want to be careful that it doesn't crack in the pieces we're getting. We want to get the north side of the tree so it's thicker. So having all this knowledge, and if you happen to have baskets to show too, it's a nice opportunity to show how the inside of the basket, like in here, is like the outside of the tree. So it's inside, oops, hang on, it's inside out. So all those little chances to bring in some other materials and talk a little bit about the importance of having the knowledge and learning in a good way, and also in all the special uses of the things around us in nature. So and then the next slide, on our minds all the time around here anyways, and I think around throughout Canada, and I think throughout Turtle Island really, is fires and the way that they're affecting us in our environment. So fires can be very scary. And this page says, our people had controlled fires to encourage mushroom medicine and berry growth. So it's sort of looking at, like, we're fearful of fires, but also what comes out of fires after that, the gifts that are left behind. And so with this one, I just wanted to share, we have a game called Firekeeper. And Firekeeper is a game where it's really encouraging young people to be silent in nature. So we're always sort of trying to work in that direction so that we can let nature come alive around us. So in this game, one person is Firekeeper, and we talk about, oh, like, why was fire important to be kept safe and sacred? What do we use fire for? Cooking and keeping ourselves warm. And so somebody had to keep the fire burning. So when you got somewhere, the fire was ready. So in this game, Firekeeper has a little blindfold, and it can just be, we just buy old tights at the thrift store. They're stretchy, you can keep them knotted, they're easy to wash, and you don't have to tie them each time on the students. So one person volunteers to be Firekeeper and blindfolds himself. The Firekeeper lays out sticks in front of themselves, and they have to listen for somebody trying to steal those sticks. So the rest of the students are very quietly surrounding Firekeeper and trying to gently fox walk their way over to the fire and steal one of the sticks. So it's very easy game to play because you don't need really any materials. Even without the blindfold, you can pull a hat down or close your eyes. So that one is sort of a nice connection to fire and to into some of the different words in the book. So yeah, so I just wanted to, I think that's the last slide. I just did the 4 slides, Jade. So yeah, I just wanted to have a chance to share a few of the pages. There's lots more outdoor nature indicators and traditional knowledge throughout the book that can be linked to some of your teaching in your outdoor classroom. So yes, that's me, Cooksham. I hope I kept it under my 10.
You are amazing as always, and so much in there. Cooksham, Lorna, appreciate you so much. It's always the greatest pleasure to work with you on the numerous different projects. And again, if you haven't worked with Laura in person or had an opportunity to be in a course, the season 3 of 4 seasons is incredible. It's the most beautiful, intimate learning space, and Lorna cultivated that for us, and we'll do again next year. So we appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, here we go. We're moving on. We're moving and we're shaking. And next up, we have the incredible Maya Burrell, who is Algonquin and Canadian. She's an educator from the Ontario College of Teachers and a graduate of the Master of Arts in Child Study and Education program through OISE. I would say it funny. OISE? Oi. It's a very East London thing, actually. That's at the University of Toronto. Maya has an undergraduate degree in critical gender studies and is focused on creating classroom spaces that are anti-oppressive and justice-focused. Maya is currently employed at the Wandering Spirit School. I'll let you pronounce it with its glory in a moment, which is in the Toronto District School Board, and teaches grade 6-7, as well as being the current program coordinator at Natural Curiosity, which is this phenomenal resource about Indigenous perspectives in children's environmental inquiry. Maya thinks about ways we can decolonize education through weaving Indigenous ways of knowing and being into all curriculum. You are hosting and supporting with many of our Indigenous language courses and giving so much to so many different places and people. So we are so grateful that you took the time to share with us today. Thank you for being here.
Miigwech, thank you so much, Jade. Super happy to be here. But yeah, I'm here on behalf of Natural Curiosity tonight. So I'm going to share my screen to have a couple slides. But yeah, like Jade said, I'm currently employed at Kapapamachakwe Wandering Spirit School in the TDSB, which is a fully Indigenous space I'm so grateful to work and learn from. Okay, I'm going to do this. I only have one screen tonight, so I need to figure out. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Looks perfect.
Okay, amazing. Okay, so yeah, Ani Bojo, my Indigenous cause. I am super happy to be here just to talk a tiny bit about this beautiful, not gonna do it because it's a blurred screen, not my face. Anyways, the Natural Curiosity textbook, the resource. And so I just want to talk a little bit about who we are and give a tiny, tiny synopsis about the 4-branch framework that we use in the book. Awesome. Perfect. So who are we? What is Natural Curiosity? Natural Curiosity is an environmental education program developed by what is known as the JICS Laboratory School, which stands for the Eric Jackman Institute of Child Study, which is at the University of Toronto. And it is a school for children in kindergarten to grade 6 and a faculty of education. So that's actually where I did my program, like Jade mentioned. And the program's purpose is to support public education through professional learning. Natural Curiosity began as a response to a document published in 2009 by the Ontario Ministry called Acting Today, Shaping Tomorrow. And this document mandated that all teachers in Ontario incorporate environmental education into their classrooms in all subjects across all grades. So the original goal of Natural Curiosity was to develop and mobilize an environmental education framework that could help educators with how to meet this mandate. But over the last 5 to 7 years, our professional learning has been centered around our newest resource, which is the Natural Curiosity second edition that I tried to show in my blurred screen, the importance of Indigenous perspectives in children's environmental inquiry. So this resource was created in the labs by the lab school and co-authored by a couple of folks in response to the Truth and Reconciliations Commission to bring Indigenous perspectives into the heart of learning, and more importantly, connection to environmental education. So the second edition was created over a 3-year period with an Indigenous advisory board and co-authored by Doug Anderson, who is a Métis scholar. And in addition to our awesome book, we also do school workshops, webinars. We have a free 5-part learning series, and sometimes we do outdoor on-the-land learning retreats and do amazing work with our partners like Outdoor Learning Store through language courses, etc. So where we began, like I just said, the first edition had a 4-branch pedagogical framework, similar to the framework we still used. And it was intended to invite and to guide educators into how to incorporate environmental education in their classroom. The first edition received a lot of praise, but also some important feedback that a resource that is based on land-based environmental inquiry had almost zero mention of Indigenous perspectives, and knowledges were not represented in the first edition. So we decided, not me at the time, but the team at the time, really decided that we needed to, as a journey, go on a journey as a team to figure out how we could add an Indigenous lens to our pre-existing framework. So during about a several-year journey, the second edition was started to be developed through conversations, through relationship building, and through inquiry, which is a main framework of our text. And the program director at the time, and now Haley Higdon, worked with educators from Arrowland First Nations, Seven Generations Education Institute, and the Rainy River District School Board. And so through these conversations, they realized how much work there still was to be done. And it was recommended that Natural Curiosity hire an Indigenous author. And that's where our amazing co-author, Doug Anderson, comes in. And Doug talked about how it would be a fully impossible task for us to indigenize the full book. And so what he offered instead was to write an Indigenous lens for each of the 4 branches of our framework. Doug found that the 4 branches of our framework aligned well with concepts that are common amongst many Indigenous nations. Again, we never want to say that our book is pan-Indigenizing anything, but it allows for a Indigenous worldview onto the environmental inquiry lens, framework. Let me go. I actually want to just go to the framework because that's what I want to talk about the most. So our textbook is broken into 4 branches, basically. So we start in the East, and in the East we have inquiry and engagement, which connects to a strong sense of spirituality through wonder and embracing the spirit of learning with the Indigenous lens of lighting the fire. So this is where a lot of the core framework of the book comes in. As a elementary teacher or someone who works with young learners, this is where the work starts of understanding how do we put learners in the driver's seat of their education. And by doing so, when we allow students to, feel connected to place-based learning, feel connected to each other, community, relationship building, you really light that fire of education, which allows them to feel, connected to all aspects of your classroom. Then moving to the South, we have our next branch of experiential learning, which is all about providing a deeply rooted sense of place with the Indigenous lens of sending out roots. So this, again, is really connecting on some of the things that even Lana was talking about, some of those exercises of how can we get learners to understand where they are, how they're connected to place, and how they can be in a reciprocal relationship with the land that they learn from. Heading west, we have our 3rd branch of integrated learning, which instills a recognition that everything is related, and with the Indigenous lens of flow of knowledge. And then finally, moving north, we head to our final branch, which is called Moving Towards Sustainability. And that really, with the Indigenous lens of breathing through the world, and that's really where that huge emphasis of reciprocity comes in. Why I love this resource so much is because it really, as an educator, walks you through the full inquiry process. I think a lot of times right now we're in like a do inquiry-based learning, allow learners to be in the driver's seat, but there's not really a lot of like, how do we do that and how do we make them feel connected to place, space, each other, community. And the textbook has great examples of each branch of like how to do, for example, there's a great water inquiry unit in one of the chapters of, getting students to think about water and where does water come from and how are we connected to water. And then moving them through an inquiry-based lesson on, like First Nations communities and what water means to them there, right? And so there's all of these pieces of deep conversation that you can move learners through to really build out units in your classroom. I'm keeping an eye on my time and I'm talking really fast. But in each chapter, in each framework, it allows educators to not only see examples of how this has been done in other classrooms, but it gives you really good provocation questions for starting units. And especially if you're new to incorporating Indigenous perspectives into your classroom, it allows you to not make it feel so like intense. It's natural, right? Children have the ability to have these conversations about what's around them. And so that's why I find the textbook great, because it's really tangible. Okay, how can you connect with us? So on here is because I just talked for 8 minutes and I feel like there's so much more to say, but the QR code there allows you to be given linked right to our Making the Shift newsletter, which is where we send out all of our upcoming like webinars, events, connections with other partners. On here is all of our social media. Our social media work study team does a brilliant job of posting to our Instagram, again, of like tangible lesson things you can do with your classrooms, events that are coming up, etc. And also right now, because you are all amazing educators joining this, I really also encourage you to look at our educator awards that are happening right now. You can nominate yourself or someone amazing at your school who is maybe already doing this great outdoor Indigenous ed work. But yeah, thank you for letting me ramble for 9 minutes. I really hope you check out our website, check out our resources, and hopefully the textbook itself is in a PDF version, or you can order a physical copy as well. Thanks so much, Jade.
Thank you so much. Wow. Woo, rapid fire, but all of the information we need. And Natural Curiosity is doing so much great work. And we've hosted Doug before for speaking. We definitely have workshops with him in our recordings page if you want to hear his voice as well. But thank you for everything you're doing. That was spectacular. Okay, we're rocking and rolling. And next up is an absolute favourite. And I know myself and someone else, I knew you first for your art. And I purchased and was in that, and then I read your books, and I mean, the helpful Sasquatch has got to be one of the greatest teaching tools of all time. And then drawing around kids, we get human-sized paper and we draw around them and they make their own helpful Sasquatch and lean in. Anyway, sorry, you inspire me. But Leah Marie Dorion, Métis artist, author, curriculum developer, lecturer and researcher, has taught Métis history and native studies for the First Nations University of Canada, the Gabrielle Dumont Institute, and the University of Saskatchewan. She's a visual artist and instructor at the Saskatchewan Urban Native Teacher Education Program, and her artwork celebrates the strength and resilience of Indigenous women and families. If you haven't signed up to join us for our Creativity Summer course, Leah's running one of them, and it's going to be incredible. But you're a book author, an illustrator, and we've got this beautiful Connecting to the Land book bundle here, which has learning resources for kids to explore Métis knowledge, culture, and history connected to the land. There are some translations into Michif and lots of insights into Métis life. So Kishti Marci, thank you so much for being here, Leah. It's always a pleasure.
Well, there's so much work that is going on Turtle Island, and I always like to stay in my little Métis Red River cart lane. And the old people in my community, I live in central Saskatchewan. The largest city is Prince Albert. It's on the North Saskatchewan River, and the community of Métis people are just starting to have this beautiful awakening of wanting to tell the Métis stories and put Métis families and children back into the narrative of, especially of central Saskatchewan, Western Canada, and beyond that. So, I never would have thought myself as, a young woman, a young Métis woman, that I'd end up being like a real children's book author, doing the art and writing the stories and representing my nation, in this way. And it's been such a journey for me as a parent as well. And as a parent, as a Métis mother, I just didn't have literature that I could access, but I had the lived experience from the family and the community. And when I became a mother, I just felt that passion to put the Métis story into the bigger community circle. So I've been doing that. And I found that it's so important to have that whole story of this beautiful nation. And representing children's literature is a deep honor and an important thing to do, because the children, they are able to take this knowledge and they're able to put it into their creativity, to their imagination, and to their journey. And if we can seed that curiosity, as everyone's talking about, that connection with the land, and see the land through all these beautiful perspectives, the language per se, I think that we can grow that deep understanding and that bond, that I think we all need a bond to these beautiful gifts that are provided in each of our territories where we live, and help children explore and discover those. So I have to announce, I came up with my first, well, probably my second board book, staying in the area of them, working with the parents and providing literature for early years. And I want to shout out to all the early years educator. I saw the bar graph, and so many of our people here today are educators with early years. And in our curriculum, we have the five senses. It's been in the curriculum in Saskatchewan for early years, like learning through your senses and helping our little ones discover the world, their own senses, and engage with the world. So the older generation really wanted me to kind of spin, how would a Métis baby be represented in the five senses? So, and I know as an artist and as a person who grew up Métis, being encouraged to learn through the senses, I was so honored to put this board book together and have the book published by Gabriel Dumont Institute. And it's Five Senses for Métis Babies. And it's also translated into the Michif. It's a heritage Michif from southern Saskatchewan. And it basically takes a little Métis baby learning through their senses about their world, about their Métis culture at a level that they're at. So I really enjoyed writing that. And I used as my focal point art the five-petaled wild rose flower, because it's just like the human hand is like got the five beautiful, the four fingers and the thumb. It's got that five. And this beautiful beadwork, wild rose, is just a hallmark of Métis culture. And I remember as a little one, that was one of the first flowers that we really got to know as Métis. I remember Dad, we were so in wonder as kids. The way he taught was like, we got to feel the petals and be so gentle. You get to smell, and we breathe in, and we observed who else was there, the pollinators. And, there's a whole community around one wild rose growing in the ecosystem. And he used to get us to look at like the pricks and the thorns, and would just be engaging us with the observation. So we got to observe the plant, smell it. If there was, and back then there wasn't the spray or the pollutants, so we were able to, in a clean area, eat the petal and have that go right into, touch it with your tongue, eat it. And it was just, to me, that was so magical. And so this book is basically looking at the five senses through a little Métis baby, and they're getting to learn their culture through five senses. And I really wanted to encourage five senses, because when I do outdoor learning, it doesn't matter if it's early years or to university and we're doing on the land. I love art on the land as well. Really encouraging the use of the five senses in the experience, especially if we're interacting with medicines, territory, getting the senses activated in our young people. And that really is a learning that is so deep. And you breathe in those smells, you'll never forget them. They go so deep. And then, of course, the older people put that whole prayer-based spirituality and that act of respect into, that conversation with the land and with the territory and with each other. Like just the respect I got to watch the older generation, my own father, as he talked with such reverence and respect to the relatives, these life-giving relatives, was just amazing. And I thought nothing of talking to plants at a young age. So it was, this book, I think I put a lot of the wonder. I went so far back into my own childhood experience and where that grew me and gave me strength. So 5 senses for Métis babies, early years education. If you educators, if you want to check it out, it's available through the Gabriel Dumont. And really the concept is seeing these as gifts, because they are true gifts. They are a beautiful window, and they are gifts, and we're so blessed if we're able to go, access our senses, and how it can lead to so much other conversations. When you remove a sense, what else? We're so adaptable, and how do we navigate the world, and how can we, keep moving through that world and have that sense of wonder. So, I take through a lot of berries, a lot of the 5-petaled flower, a lot of the berry symbolism, Métis cultural symbolism to really, show a baby's beautiful sensory experience growing up in a Métis nurturing environment. And I think it's just so nice to have like Métis babies represented in literature now. I never saw it. I just didn't see it, and it's there now. So I want to thank the Métis community for, putting our babies into that journey. I remember loving, when I was a child, characters from other cultures with their babies. I absolutely love that. As a little person, I just love seeing babies in literature and baby characters, and especially as a main focus. So this little Métis baby is, heart center of the circle, and learning the world in this way at that time. So that's a new release that was released in March. I've only read it, I think, at one conference, and that's it. It's just so new. So I'm really excited to start doing some like parental community type work to really extend. And there's a lot of counting, like, and color symbolism. And so anybody who uses, your non-reading audience, you've got like, there's 5 like little dots. And I've really developed the artwork so you could do counting. Our programs use English and Michif, so the educators can do the counting and do a lot of supportive language. Just the way I did the art, I really kept my early years educators' tool sets in mind. With the curriculum, basic counting and colors and these simple shapes and lots of love, and that heart symbolism and earth symbolism and Métis cultural symbolism weaves in there subtly, so that it's strong, but it's not overpowering. It's very natural to it. So I'm not sure how much more time, but I do want to show one more book. I Am Métis, new book. I illustrated it, but I never wrote it. And it is a journey of this beautiful author's journey on her river lot with her father. And it's a new book. And this is something for people who really want to look at Métis river lots and a lived experience in Manitoba. This is the story about this Métis woman, Karen, and she goes by Huri Elfson, and her journey growing up Métis on a river lot and learning from her family. So very much family oriented engagement, authentic engagement with the land. And those are 2 new resources. I haven't even had the time to really workshop them well. So you're kind of the first bigger audience. There's a lot of you here tonight who, we really haven't had much time to do a lot of activation of the extension of the literature. So I just open that door to you if you're looking for Métis literature to incorporate into your practice. 2 new books to put on your radar.
What an absolute delight. Ishti Celia. Nia Enami Atugla Mishif. I'm very grateful to be learning Heritage Missive, and I speak it with just so much love for your language and your culture. Thank you so much. And we're just developing a new early learners kit, and I spy a board book that would fit perfectly. So we'll email. And again, Leah is one part of 4-part creativity course for educators or anyone involved in education, where we're going to be going into art. And if you haven't joined for Leah's 4-part course, there's going to be another one of those as well, where you do hands-on activities. It was the most interactive and deep art exploration. And as someone who doesn't see themselves as an artist, I felt so capable at the end of that, and I achieved such things that that actually hanging on my wall. So thank you for all you do, Leah. It's an absolute treat. Okay, and our final speaker, last but most certainly not least, is our incredible guest, Leona Prince. I have to find you and bring you to the front. Okay, hoping that can be seen. Okay, hi, Leona. Thank you so much for being here. I know how busy you are. And before last week, I knew of your work, I had read your work, I had seen the things that you'd done on the big screen, and then I got to meet you with Monique Grace Smith as part of the Medicine of Stories workshops, and got to learn about your story and the way that you have come into your space. Because not only are you an award-winning author and owner of your own publishing company that you created, right, because you didn't see representation. Your story was so moving and so powerful in that space. But you are the Assistant Superintendent of Indigenous Education for the Ministry of Education and Childcare. And so your work shapes Indigenous curriculum in the spaces that I inhabit. And so it's, all of the people here fangirling hard in different ways and forms. But you have these 2 beautiful books that we share in our store, A Dance Through the Seasons and Be a Good Ancestor. And it's the greatest gift to have you share with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for that warm welcome. And thank you for everyone on the panel, those who are hosting us. I'm here, Waguspi Winneglen, again, Silkazko guides Indianka Wagasasiet, now Sedeni Habienta Masai. And so I'm here today in Silkazko territory, which is Wet'suwet'en territory, specifically Frog Clan territory. My name is Leona Prince. Zin Hanzu Zio. Good day, everyone. I was wondering how to wrap everything up. I thank you for the panelists for all of that, laying down all that good medicine. I think, we're better together, and definitely hearing the diverse perspectives here has put me in a good headspace. As it was said, one of my more known books that I co-wrote with my sister Gabrielle is Be a Good Ancestor. My very first book really is how I grounded my practice as a teacher in the classroom, primary teacher. And that is this book, A Dance Through the Seasons, which Lana, I have in common with you. Carla Joseph is the illustrator. At my very first school I was a vice principal at, her art was everywhere, and I was like, who is this artist? And she was one of the parents, so I was the vice principal of her children at one point. And I asked her, I said, I had manuscripted a book, A Dance Through the Seasons, and I said, I want to write a book one day, can you please illustrate it? Everyone in the world needs to see your book. So grounded in a good way, there's a lot of cross connections here. I'm loving it. When I was in the classroom, one of the biggest tools, and part of the biggest work that I do is help educators incorporate Indigenous knowledges into their classroom. So having a fundamental sort of foundation of Indigenous pedagogy to teach from. And one of the best tools that I used personally, and you can look at this, it's called, I even copy and pasted the link, but My Seasonal Rounds Open School BC. I've been using that for over a decade. And I'm going to share with you right now, because I think that, and I'll tell you a little story in my time. This is part of their Black Line Masters. And what I would get to do, because, you know, in September, the start of our year, if you think about the start of different people's years, could be in the spring if you're Indigenous. There's the Chinese New Year, there's the New Year we all celebrate. And then as educators, September is our new year. August, if you become an administrator. And so, or you like to get into your classroom and decorate early like I did. But what I found this to be is the best mechanism to ground yourself in community, in relationality, and in the teachings locally, because that is one of the biggest sort of barriers and struggles, challenges that educators have, is local content. And so I couldn't be more happy about the renaissance of Indigenous literature that are coming out right now to support this work. You can really contextualize this work. Recently, I was teaching a Indigenous teacher education program science course, their final course. And this is what I told them to ground their work in as new educators. I said, no matter where you land on Turtle Island, you can use this tool to ground your practice in. And so in September, I've done this with staffs, so they can see their commonalities and where their intersectionalities intersect with each other, and how much we do that's very similar no matter what our worldviews and perspectives are. But this is great for relationship building, and I'll share a story with you. I had this teacher reach out to me after we went over this, and he had it with his heart group, and his heart group met with children who um, had some loss in their life and were going through a lot. And this is in, you know, rural British Columbia, in the school district I was previously director of instruction for. And he said that you had farm kids, you had res kids, and you had town kids in this group. And they were sharing about their seasonal rounds, what they do in their connections to nature. And so a lot of hunting, a lot of fishing, a lot of berry picking, a lot of gardening. Kids first and foremost will put their birthdays and then their families' birthdays on there, and holidays they really enjoy. But then they'll get down into the nitty gritty. And what they said, the farm kids were like, that's when we slaughter the lambs. And the other children were like, what? And the teacher, knowing the context of the area, was like, well, when do you harvest moose, asking some of the Indigenous kids that had talked about harvesting moose and other animals throughout their seasonal rounds. And so although we'll use different language, um, we are similar in ways. And so it's a great way to build community as you start your year. And then it's also a good way for educators to learn about the local territories, really truly live their land acknowledgements. That's what you're doing when you do this work. You're not just saying the land acknowledgement, you're going beyond acknowledging it. Anyone can acknowledge the land, I acknowledge it's here. But what is your relationship to that land? And the more you learn about the local seasonal rounds, I too do not like to use a pan-Indigenous approach, but I know people across Turtle Islands live through the seasonal rounds. You had Lana sharing about birch bark, something we have in common, and many cultures across North America. There's different things that we'll do at different times to sustain us, but it's also the land will teach you different things. And I loved when that was being shared as well. We get many teachings from our lands, and you can even put in, you know, the core competencies into those teachings. What do the animals and the land teach us just by way of being? And so the second book that my sister and I wrote, Be a Good Ancestor, is about connection to self, connection to others, connection to the land. And it really is. And one, the late Harold Isaac, who's Daketh from Nakasley, where is my natal nation, he heard this from Joe Cardinal, who's Cree, taught him that is in essence Indigenous spirituality. And I learned that at a teacher pro D event like 20 years ago, and I never forgot it, this description of Indigenous spirituality. And my sister and I wrote this not with that in mind, but when you look at the stanzas and you take this apart, it really is that, and how the importance, we have to connect to self, we have to connect to others, and we have to connect to the land in order to be good living ancestors, and in order to promote this ultimate relationship that we need, not only with self, not only with other people and more than human beings, but to the land. And so that's what that points to. And it really is a takeoff from these seasonal rounds units that I would do, and I would have it and we'd come back to it. And, you know, if you're teaching a split grade, I would have the kids document like what's changed throughout the seasons. Is there changes? And then, you know, pointing forward to another book. It comes out in September. This is my advanced reading copy, September 16th. It's not available yet. It's Remember Who You Are. By doing this work, by grounding us in nature, in our indigeneity, because Indigenous peoples all over the world are synonymous with the land. One of our very specific DACF teaching is that you can't pick us apart. We and the land are one thing. And so in order to remember who you are in our brilliance as Indigenous people, you also have to remember our relationship with the earth. And so we keep layering these teachings that are based in DACF, our teachings, but definitely reach out to others and help them with this work. The last thing that I'll leave you with, because I like learning from educators and I'm always taking notes from no matter where I am in the province. Kevin from School District 38 teacher, him and April are creating a network of land-based educators. I signed up. I said, would it be weird if I signed up? Throw my title out the door. Can I be a part of this? And they said yes. But Kevin said, you know, he has been learning from the land and really listening to local elders and knowledge holders and all those folks. And they were really talking about all of that. And he said he learned this from mason bees. Mason bees prep for the next generation that they will never meet. That is the root of this work, to prepare for a generation we will never see. We know that is ultimately our responsibility to future generations. And so in the spirit of Kevin and his mason bees, that's where I would like to leave us. Msai, what's up?
Thank you so much. What an absolute gift, Leona. And all of our incredible authors and presenters and knowledge sharers, just diverse and beautiful and inviting. And for National Indigenous History Month and every month of the year, these are the resources that we should be sharing in our classrooms and in our education centres, because it is language and knowledge that connects with all of us. I can only speak for myself, actually, but the more I read, the more I learn, and the more connected I feel. So I'm so grateful for each and every one of you for what you've given. Okay, stick around. I'm going to ask one question for each person really quickly if we have time, and then we'll do a really quick prize giving at the end for everyone. So I'm sorry, Lorna, I accidentally muted you, so you might have to unclick. I do have a question for you, which is, someone asked, where can we find more of the fun games with important messages like that you shared, like the Firekeeper, for example?
My first book, Heartbeat of the Earth, has a whole section on different games. So that's probably a good place to like make connections with Whispers of the Earth. Thanks for that question.
Thank you so much. For Maya, someone asked, are there opportunities for group coaching like listed on your website, or consultation for those who are in the US? It seems like some of your partnerships are based in Canada, so just curious, is there opportunities there?
I think that'd be a great question for our program director. I would love for you to email. I think any chance that we can. I know educators in the US have used our resource before. We actually worked with a community of practice in Duluth, Minnesota, a couple like last year or the year before. So for sure, I can put our email in the chat and just send us an email. Miigwech, thanks.
Thank you. Leah, a question for you about art with students. And you do art with adults and educators that helps. So with your students, how do you instill a sense of creativity and art through the work that you offer?
Oh my goodness. I think when I take them, I love being on the land, and I actually love the touch, feel, be, and training them to interact and observe and discover their own relationship with what's around them. So it's really about just encouraging confidence, observation, and a comfortable, relaxed place where I think young people can just take off the layers and just and put on the artist hat without judgment.
Love that. So beautiful. And Leona, I'll just finish with a question. The seasonal rounds, you talk about the units. I did find a link and put that in. Did you write them? Are they directly in the book, or is those something that you could do together with your book, A Journey Through the Seasons, and those units?
Actually, I did review it at one point after I had been promoting it forever. I used it as a teacher, and you can use it. My book is one of the seasonal rounds books that are in there, but there are multiple ones I love. Tons Moons is one of the other ones that I really love. And so there's books in there that are about the seasonal rounds and how you can use it. So it's not based on my book, but it's one of the resources that you can use. So there's a whole collection that you can use with that unit.
Beautiful. And it's Indigenous science. I love it. This understanding, this love. My goodness, I appreciate each and every one of you so much. Lorna, Maya, Leah, Leona, and Michaela and Duncan, who've been behind the scenes working really hard. Thank you so much for your time. Everyone, if you're here, get these books, share these books, join us for more of our professional learning, and show up and support our incredible Indigenous authors and creators for all of the gifts they're sharing with us. Thank you so much for being here. I understand we're just a couple minutes over, so if you'd like to go forth with your evening, we appreciate you so, so deeply. And for folks who are staying with us, I'm just going to pull 4 attendees as our prize winners. And our first winner is Monique, Monique Franco. Monique Franco, you're our first winner of a $25 gift card to the Outdoor Learning Store. Second winner is Valentina Rakhmati. Valentina Rakhmati, you are our second winner. Congratulations. Could use your gift card to maybe access one of these fabulous resources that were shared. And a winner of a $25 gift card to the Take Me Outside store is Adele, Adele, Adele Dittrick. Adele, you are our third winner. And our fourth and final winner today is Diana Wass, Diana Wass. You are our fourth and final winner. Have a beautiful Tuesday. This is the final series of this season. We'll see you again in the fall. But in between, Lorna's doing an amazing July course on connecting to Indigenous teachings. A lot of those fabulous games and things are going to be in there. Then Leah's joining us in the summer. We have got lots of beautiful other things coming up, and I hope this will not be the last time we share space with Leona and Maya. And we look forward to seeing you in the fall and beyond. And if you need us, you can always reach out, info@outdoorlearning.com. Have a wonderful rest of your spring and summer. Thank you so much.